Welcome back, Super G fam. This is Jonathan for another Partners and Plugs. Today I'm really hyped about who we're going to be interviewing. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the information about Will. In an era where fashion trends move at the speed of sound or scroll, Will Biondo has built something slower, more intentional, and far more powerful. You can't see this, but his entire apartment is loaded with product and projects that he's working on. Will's the founder of Arkyve, a rising streetwear label born from a dorm room. From a dorm room?
Exactly.
From a dorm room. And powered by persistence. Before his crochet hats went viral, Will was just a high school kid experimenting with t-shirts, spoon rings, and pop sockets, learning early that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. The lessons led him to sewing, upcycling old fabrics, and eventually creating pieces entirely by hand. Then came the crochet hats. I have to say, mine I really like. It's brand new. Colorful, nostalgic, and absolutely impossible to ignore. When Kai Cenat put one on during a live broadcast, Arkyve literally exploded overnight.
Yeah, like overnight. Also, I added to that growth by taking all the content, all the clips, and telling everyone, hey, all the hat you guys have been seeing and wondering who made it, I made it. And that shot up even more. Because a lot of people, when they have that happening, they don't really know how to capitalize on it. I capitalized on it 100%. And then bam, shot up.
Amazing. So literally 3,000 followers turned into over 50,000 followers in the blink of an eye. So now Will's a Babson College student, which is in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I got my MBA there. Just voted number 2 in the country for undergraduate by Wall Street Journal. And Will is really proving that Gen Z entrepreneurship isn't about chasing trends. It's about craft, community, and connection. From his campus workshops and his spot right here to Paris Fashion Week, he's going to be going to ComplexCon in a few weeks. He's redefining what it takes to build a brand literally with his own 2 hands. So we're going to chop it up. Let's get into it. So I have some notes here, as I always do, to make sure I don't miss anything. Let's talk about, the early days, the early hustle, and then the Babson choice. At the beginning, what was the first thing you ever sold or made that made you realize you had the entrepreneurial spark?
Sneakers, just like a lot of those other people at Babson and just in general, people who are going to entrepreneurship. It was just I remember the reason why I became an entrepreneur is because I wanted LeBron 10s. And my parents said they wouldn't buy it. So my way of trying to figure out how I could buy it was making money. And I was like, oh, I love sneakers. I'm learning about how all these sneakers resell. Let me learn how to resell. And although I never actually was able to buy LeBron 10s, a year or 2 later after that want of the shoes is when I started looking into Yeezys, all that. So the first probably shoes I bought and sold were Yeezy 350s. The ones I remember the most were probably black V2s. Made $200 off of it. And then, it turned into something that, almost foreshadowing, where I was selling sneakers and doing things that no one else was doing. While everyone was looking for hype sneakers, there are times where I realized, oh, Barney's New York will basically liquidate a pair of shoes because it's not selling through their site. But they don't understand that through different channels like Stadium Goods, they're selling a shoe for $25, Stadium Goods will sell it for $90. And that was one time where I bought 8 pairs of shoes, and in a span of a couple weeks, I made $500 because it's what another man's trash, another man's treasure in a way. That was when it started, where I was okay, I'm not just going to follow what everyone else does entrepreneurially. I'm going to figure out my own path, do something a little different.
It's interesting because I think entrepreneurship, people think of the word and being an entrepreneur as, a scary adventure of running your own business. But I think for people that are really passionate about a product, a service, a type of venture, that there's no fear because it's a natural extension of who you are.
Yeah.
And I got started the same way. It was with sneakers. So you went from pop sockets to t-shirts to spoon rings back in the early days. We did our homework to make sure we came in prepared. What did those early days projects teach you about creating something from scratch and really trusting your instincts?
So pop sockets is super early. That was like when I moved from sneakers, like little like kiddie stuff, to, even though I still was so young, I think it was freshman in high school. It was like, okay, like there's a business side of this, which is I just figured out like a lot of people manufacture stuff through the U.S. or through channels that are so expensive. I can find the direct channel and sell it for a lot cheaper. I probably made $500 through that, and that's when I started.
So that was the pop sockets.
Pop sockets.
So tell me about that, because I'm sure people aren't familiar.
Right before I went into high school, I was just researching different products on Alibaba because I just found out about it. This is when people didn't know much about overseas manufacturing, and I was like, you know what, pop sockets are a really trendy thing. I don't know why, it just jumped to me, and I did my research and I learned shipped, they're like 50 cents each.
Oh wow!
But then I went.
Do you still have any?
No, I don't. Probably somewhere far. But I went to my
DM me. He gave me one.
I went to like my school, my high school's like alumni office where they have a whole stock room of stuff they give away. And I was talking to them. They paid like $15 for each pop socket, $10, $15. And I was like, that's horrible. You're paying like all the money on this stupid packaging. And I told them, I'll make you the same one. And I was thinking like half of $750 because I wanted to do half of what they're doing to like undercut them, thinking they would like buy it. So on the spot, they're like, how much you sell for it? And I thought half of $750 was $325. So I said $325, even though I should have said $375.
Right.
But they bought it, and like I sold them $200, $250. That's like, after like how much I paid for it, I made like $750, and that was crazy to me.
And you were just a freshman.
Just a freshman, and that's when I learned you need capital, because I blew all of that, and I couldn't do anything entrepreneurial because I blew all the money on clothes. I went to the mall, spent everything.
I know that feeling really well, as does my wife, who looks at my closets every day.
And and when the t-shirts, that was when, senior year. Actually, let me trace back a step. Junior year, I saved a bunch of money in the summer, bought 100 t-shirts for like $1,500, and they were all messed up. I got scammed, so I had to throw them away. And then that's when I was like, I need to rely on myself. I hate relying on other people. So I spent the same amount of money on a vinyl cutting machine where, I can print all the t-shirts after I cut the vinyl, heat press it. And that was when I was like, okay, you need capital, you need a little bit of money. And then that's when I really started the brand. But then it almost...
So that was Arkyve you started with?
Yeah, Arkyve. That was when I first started.
And where did
Arkyve.
the name come from?
It was at a time where like Arkyve, Archive, was becoming trendy for like the younger generation, because of course Arkyve has been a thing for, it's a fashion show. It's like, it's the products that are in the fashion show that you can later buy, and just the word archive in general. But it started becoming like popular in my age group, like people learning about archive pieces. Because archive pieces used to be high fashion, then it's like, okay, now it's like a little more affordable. Kids are liking this fashion, like undercover, all those types of things. And I was like, I like that word. Let me flip it a little bit, like Noah's Ark, make it sound cooler, and make it my brand. Because I looked at my brand as like, it's going to be the history of how I grow. Because my first name was Soul Ties for my first brand, and then Arkyve was the second one. I was like, okay, this will be the history of my growth as I learn how to make clothes, because that's my big thing. And then you take it to the spoon rings. That was like, my brand wasn't doing the best. It was a little bit slow. I was almost hitting a plateau, even though I was still actually making pieces and still growing. I was like, I need a second thing, because I needed money, but I didn't want to work a job. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to make spoon rings. Before I even looked for a job, before I even had the concept of it, like making money in the summer, I was like, let me make spoon rings. And at first, it didn't go well. I bought all the materials and I had no idea how to sell it, because where I was at, like, they wouldn't let you sell jewelry at like flea markets, because it's so, like, everyone wants to sell jewelry at flea markets and all that. So like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to sell it a different way. And I learned that I could wholesale it to jewelry stores. And then from there, I sold like 500 rings all in one summer. I sold them for $20 each, paid $1 for each ring. And that was when I first made serious money. I never made serious money in my life off of jobs, off of Arkyve, first time. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm getting closer to Arkyve becoming bigger.
You could have gone all in on fashion right away, but you chose Babson, a school known for entrepreneurship. Why did you choose Babson? What made you want to learn the business side instead of skipping college and just going in full bore? Because you're doing it now in tandem, and you're a full-time student. And, we got a tour of his palatial estate. I was amazed that the size of the pool, the indoor pool here. But you could have gone right out of high school and just pursued your passion, but you chose to go to college and, a very specific type of school. So how did that happen and why?
I come from a place where if you don't go to college, you're looked at as crazy. So I came from a very decent upbringing, And on top of that, it's like I'm an entrepreneur before a creative, not a creative before an entrepreneur.
Wait, if you're watching this, did you hear what he just said? An entrepreneur before a creative. One of the things that our team runs into all the time, if we're looking to work with a new reseller or we're talking to a new brand, it's like these general questions that are in your head every single day because you've learned the business of business and you're talking to someone who's really creative and has great ideas. But okay, how are you going to monetize that? How are you going to scale it? Like that, it's super important. If this interview is 2 hours long, that was like the first golden nugget for sure. So go back. Sorry, I interrupted, but go back to what you're saying.
So I have been in business before being into something creative. Why I started Arkyve was I always knew I had this crazy business mind. And I was like, okay, before I look into something like finance, banking, creating like a service-based business, I want to do something I love and give it a shot while I'm young and while I still have the chance to give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, I'll figure something else out. But if it does, amazing. So Arkyve was merely just an idea. Even though I was creating products, I was doing well, it was merely just an idea because I was testing things out. I didn't have anything concrete, Now I have something very concrete. But how I got to this concrete thing was because of Babson. And I knew it would all be because of Babson. I would learn so many things because, it's good to have purpose and it's good to have not backup options, but like preparing for the worst and just being in an environment that everyone around me loves business or that's what they're thinking about because that's what everyone is thinking about.
All right. So back to Babson, as I said, it's consistently ranked as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the country. What was it about the environments when you walked through the doors, you started meeting other students that you said, this is where I should be?
It was so easy. Babson was one of my best decisions in my life because when I was looking at colleges, I thought to myself, I poorly judged what high school I should go to. So I was like, you know what? Like, no matter where I end up, at a bare minimum, I want to choose somewhere that will be good for my future and not be like selfish in the process because like my parents are paying for it. I should choose somewhere that's going to be good for my future, not if I like it, partying, yada, yada. And what was so amazing about going to Babson is that everyone has some outlook on business in like a positive way. Like that's what they want to do. And with something so niche as entrepreneurship, people chose Babson because most of them were entrepreneurs at one point. And I came from a high school where I was very different from most other people. When I went to Babson, it was almost like I could stop anyone walking on that sidewalk, anyone walking to class, and have a full-on conversation with every single person. It made it so easy to connect with people because, all my friends now, because I'm so focused on my life and goals, all my friends have this mindset of, caring about their future, either like a creative or business mindset, and they're very driven. And it's very easy for me to connect with people that have the same mindset. Babson is just like that almost for like a majority of people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like even me now and before, I kind of didn't really connect with people like partying, going out, like not really caring about their life. Maybe like the frat vibe of like different colleges, but you don't get that a lot at Babson,
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right. No, I totally get it. Outside of Super G, one of my big commitments is spending time at Babson working in their fashion and entrepreneurship school. So now that you've been at Babson and you're a senior, so in May, your academic journey will, for the time, end. Have you been able to, at Babson, surround yourself with other creatives or make strategic partnerships with students and or used Babson in a way to help you build your business?
Yeah, so I have been around a lot of people in a lot of different fields. People who created their own business, people who are, just going to go into finance, accounting after college, or people who are going to inherit their family's business. And being in this wide spectrum, I've learned so much from so many different types of people about different fields and how wide business can go, but also how narrow it can go with all these fields because it's all the same thing. general essence, but also it's a lot of motivation because I showed up and there are people who are already making six figures from their business.
Right.
Friends who already had 100,000 followers who seem like they have everything figured out, or kids, because Babson's so affluent, kids who spend money whenever they want. Like in the past, if I called like $40 for an Uber, like my chest would hurt because that's like all the money in my account. And it was things like that where I was like, oh my God, I'm around all these people. They can spend money how they want. They can travel, all that. Not only was I influenced to be successful from seeing other people's success, but seeing how people live their lives, I wanted to live that same life.
Right.
While also learning from each other. So being around all these creatives and business owners, and don't get it messed up, most people in this world don't take action. Only a tiny minority. That's the same at Babson. Even though it's an entrepreneurship school, most people just talk. Most people, not bad, focus on their studies and their 9-to-5 careers. There's very few people at Babson who take action, who work hard, and have successful businesses. All of those three things together.
Yeah, I think you can be taught the tools to create a successful business, but the art of being an entrepreneur is something you have to be born with, or you have to have that preconditioned mindset to take the risk.
Like you said, like when you said for an entrepreneur, like even for me, like this is an extension of my life.
Right.
If entrepreneurship is not an extension of your life, where the failures and the mess ups aren't like you think you separate those failures and mess ups and think to yourself, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, then you're going to fail. But every failure and mess up isn't a mess up to me or failure. It's just a small little like hurdle I have to jump over.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
So that's
there's a famous saying that says that the view from the mountaintops is beautiful, but growth only happens in the valleys. And, a lot of times people don't realize that once you achieve some brand success or financial success, that the time frame to get there could be very long, but also the mistakes and the learning and the decisions to keep going when you just want to say, F it, it's not attainable. You're just, people are wired differently. They're like, and you also, I think a truly successful entrepreneur looks at their failures or takes stock of the process of trying to go from point A to point B and will analyze and say, did I waste time with this? How could I have done this more efficiently? Now that I've got what I, created a product and it's in market or about to be launched in market, what could I have done better? So each time you're doing another project, you take that knowledge that you've learned and you use it to be more efficient and more successful. And I think part of that is, Babson teaches that, other schools teach it, but you have to be willing to take those risks. And a lot of people just aren't, it's scary, but that's kind of what, for me is the energy that gets me up out of bed every day. So you learned to sew early on. How did that skill change your approach as both a designer and an entrepreneur? Because, I look at a sewing machine and don't know where the thread goes in the needle.
So this is probably the biggest thing, like that led me to my success. So as an entrepreneur, you're going to meet a lot of people who are maybe at one point they're smaller than you, but you're going to meet a lot of people who are a lot bigger than you. And there's almost like a proposition of value you need to have to a lot of people to even look at you, to even think about you, because that's what I look at. It's like you want to go outside networking, you want to do all these things, you want to meet all these people, but what can you provide to them? What can you tell them about yourself that'll either make them impressed with you or make them want to talk to you? And sewing was that one thing for me, because although I didn't have the numbers, the sales, followers, whatever it was, me being able to sew and do something other people didn't, I had this proposition of value that made people want to talk to me, whether it was because they generally liked my work, whether it was because I did something unique and it was respectable, or I could pitch something to designers and to brands and be like, hey, let's collab. One example of that was 13 Studios, this hoodie brand that I really looked up to, and I waited 6 hours in line just to talk to him. And I learned eventually that he went to Babson, and I kept almost pestering him, being like, hey, let's work, let's do something, blah, blah, blah. But the only way we could work was because I did something truly unique. And he saw that and he was like, okay, I'll send you some hoodies. You can customize it for another person. And, it's like I say that persistence, but also like learning a skill that doesn't make you 100% unique, but separates you from most people. Because you find a skill like airbrush, sewing, painting. Some people may think, oh, but a lot of people do that. Or a good amount of people do that. Most people don't take the time to learn that skill. And once you learn that skill, you can make it your own by figuring out your style. I figured out my style, which not a lot of people do, is upcycling old fabrics and vintage fabrics that are super unique. That's why I landed on crochet, you know? Like sewing and making things with crochet is so niche. And I just started with sewing everything, which is super general, but then I narrowed it down by trial and error and everything. So sewing put me in a world that elevated me, put me on the same level as even the biggest people, because I could be like, hey, I'm motivated and I drive just like you, and I can create things with you that no one else can create.
So when you, going back to what you talked about with the crochet hat, when did you realize that the crochet hat, you know, was the product that really started to separate Arkyve from everyone else?
Probably like 1 to 2 weeks after I made it, because...
So go back in time. When was that?
October of 2020. What's
2025 now.
October 2023.
Okay.
This is when I was so demotivated. The money I made from spoon rings, like the 10,000, I'll say that. I was like, okay, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to put it into this cool new product, these like hats. And I copied like these Disney hat where they had scratches on the brim. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought I was on top of the world. I was going to do so well after the success of the spoon rings. Bam, like it flopped so hard. And that was when I thought I was on the uprise. I was going to make so much money. Arkyve was really going to get big. Just plummeted. And I was so demotivated. I felt like I lost everything that I worked to build up. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sew and do what I love. And I was just chilling in my room, like not even like stressing about all this stuff, just doing whatever. And I saw someone wearing a cat hat, a wrapper. And I was like, the one you're wearing? I was like, let me make that with the only fabric I had, which is the granny square fabric. I sewed the hat.
So granny square like we're sitting on?
Yeah, just like this. A little smaller squares though.
Okay.
And I was like, I made it. And I was like, it's cool. I mean, not really my style, but I posted a photo of me wearing it on my story. And this model, Lucius Furman from Boston, who always was amazing to me, he was like, yo, send me that hat. I love it. I sent it to him. A week later, he posted up wearing it. The post got 15,000 likes. And I had like 100 people being like, make more hats, make more hats. That's why I was like, oh my God, I found a winning product. I didn't get elevated that much. I probably got a couple hundred followers from that in the course of a couple months. But my followers really started to buy it. And that was like the most money I ever made from my brand. Not as much as even as the spoon rings, but I started to make money from my brand. I'm like, wow, like this, I need to keep branching out with this.
Interesting too, because Lucius, we've met several times, and you know, I feel like, especially in the streetwear community and in Boston, it's super small, and you know, people will come in and out of our universe just by being out there and going, you know, putting yourself out there. Someone will see something you're doing or a product you're making and have someone to network with, some advice, and it leads to, you know, future opportunities. Walk me through like a marquee day for you with your hat sales, you know, when you go from, you know, a few to a number where you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And oh my God, how the hell do I handle all these orders? Like, tell me about how like that might happen or how it happened.
I've never truly stressed too much about like, how am I going to handle this, blah, 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 with any of those things. Cause I'm very like, my mind is very like straightforward thinking and planned out. And I try to do everything logically. But when it came to my biggest release day ever, or maybe my biggest release day after all the success, where it was like a slap in the face, like, oh my God, like your life has changed. I remember the moment. I remember I cried after how many hats I was selling in like minutes. But truly, it didn't come close to the feeling of me selling my first product online. And that's when it really hit me at the moment where I was like, wow, I cannot strive for the sales and the numbers. I have to love the process, or else this is all pointless. Mm-hmm. Because the process is what I love, you know? I don't care about celebrities wearing my hats. I care about what it took to get that celebrity to wear my hat and what it means for my brand.
It's not the end result, it's the work of the journey to get to that.
And the feeling
when someone recognizes it or people relate to it in a way.
And the feeling of being like, oh my God, I think I did it. I think I did it. That's the nice, like, that's the high I get. Not from actually doing it. It's like, I think I did it. You know, the lead up to that, because it's almost nice to feel that your hard work isn't going to waste.
Right.
You know? And your hard work gets noticed. Because I'm ups and downs. I'm at a down that's also an up. But when you do a lot of planning and you see things from the big picture, my down is always an up, because it pushes me to keep going. And every down I've had, like bad down, like where I'm like, how am I gonna get out of this, has always turned into something a lot bigger.
Believe me, I completely get that. You know, I'm 59 years old, and before I went to Babson and got my MBA, I had 6 companies, and all of them failed. They were successful, and then something happened and we had to close them, or they failed. And I never wanted to, like, I knew there was going to be another entity, another business to come. Although you can't see it, you know, there's a lot of product in a small space. So what did scaling production teach you about balancing creativity and running a real business? Because you're talking about design, manufacturing, demand, you know, customers, and getting those out to them. So talk to me about scaling that. And then you're trying to be creative, you're scaling the business. How do you manage all that?
So number one thing is, I'd like to address that it's very sad how brands of people that look like me, similar age as me, or just in this world, how it's run sometimes, where you have brands that do $1 million months and they still do pre-orders and still make their customers wait. And maybe that's part of, like, the limited exclusivity. And I had to, think about that. What do I want to do? Limited drops? Do I want to do exclusivity? Do I want to make it accessible? Even now, I'm working with very big department stores to send my products to. And that requires a lot. And number one is, I don't do pre-orders for my releases, because that's just a recipe for disaster. If one thing goes wrong, you are screwed on a pre-order. And there's so many different things that can go wrong. Products don't arrive, products are messed up, not enough quantities, customs takes your products. You ship out products and your customers have already been waiting for it. They get another delay, or their products are lost in shipment. It's just bad customer sentiment.
Back in the day, there was a company called Social Club, and they would do these pre-launches and pre-orders, and then you'd see on their Instagram, Antisocial Waiting Club, and I'm waiting 9 weeks. So I totally get it. I just remember you're like, how do you manage that?
And it's crazy because they still have platforms even after all this, which I don't understand, because I try to be the good guy in this and push that message that I'm good customer service. But overall, it's good for customer sentiment. My customers know they can message me. They know they can buy from my site and not have to worry. They know that if I mess up on something, I'm always going to make it up to them. But now with scaling, I'm trying to move into different markets, France, Brazil, Japan, where they're in every country, honestly, in the world. These hats speak volumes that no other product does. And specifically, like I said, France, Brazil, and Japan, those markets have shown particular interest. But then I have to worry about supply chain. I have to worry about shipping costs. I have to worry about inventory management on top of wholesale, on top of selling products on my website, on top of moving into clothing where the margins are a lot harder, especially with wholesale.
When you say harder, you mean narrower? The margins.
Yes, narrower. Yeah. The margins are narrow. And what comes with it is understanding that, taking out loans isn't a bad thing. What every business has to do, but I always looked at it like it was negative, but that's because I didn't understand business even a couple months ago, or like a year ago. Like, understanding you need loans, sometimes you need funding, sometimes you need all these things. Like,
so building a bank relationship, over time, that lends yourself a lot of credibility, especially if you take on outside investors or you want to get a greater line of credit. They've shown you can manage a small line.
Exactly. Like those things that a lot of people don't realize, and they end up also taking Shopify loans, because Shopify loans is the easiest thing you can take. And
you took a Shopify loan?
Of course, just like every other brand owner. And it's good if you, like I was watching it, it's good if you don't have a line of credit, because my bank, Chase Bank, they require you to have 2 years of business statements.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I had to take, line of credit through another way, which is another bank. But with all these things, it's like you need to find what works for you. And although most people don't, you need to have the right judgment on the situation.
Do you have any mentors or advisors when you're running through these scenarios in your head about strategic business decisions that you will reach out to? Because you can't, one of the things that Babson taught me was there's a big network of people that are willing to just, they're not giving you opinion, they're giving you your counsel because they feel they can relate to your journey, but they can also relate to the brand and what you're doing. So being, in the Babson community, do you feel like you have that, or you had that before you got here? So do you have those people you go to?
I don't have it in the Babson community, also because I don't share a lot of these things with the Babson community. I also have kind of separated myself a little bit because I'm traveling so much, I'm meeting so many people, and I don't know, I applaud Babson for everything I was able to do. Now I live off campus and I'm doing a lot of things.
Yeah, because you're essentially going to be done in a few months.
Yeah, and I've also, found my mentors who are actually into fashion, not just business. Mm-hmm. Although I have some mentors who aren't just fashion related, I gear more towards them because they have true level understanding. Like Jordan Bentley, who owns Hypeland, he was probably one of the only people I've ever asked for advice on this financial side of things, because it is hard to ask about. Mm-hmm. And I'm usually not the person to ask for too much advice now. Usually it's not, it's like, instead of me asking for advice, I frame it into a conversation. But I called Jordan, I said straight up, do you have any advice about this? And he was like, yeah, don't do Shopify loans, horrible terms, get a line of credit, don't worry about taking loans out, it's normal, yada, yada. So those are the type of people I look up to. Because Jordan Bentley, if you do your research, he's been doing this for almost a decade. He knows what he's doing.
One of the things when I was doing my research to get ready for this Partners and Plugs interview is Kai Cenat. I saw different clips and I kept thinking, I wonder how I would have reacted to that, because that was just crazy. How did that connection happen, and what went through your head when you saw him wear his hat? It was one like this, but different colors, obviously.
Exactly. It was more like this blanket right here.
Yeah. I mean, literally the guy was freaking out. So what was that like, and how did it happen?
His P.O. box is public info, and some people don't know that, but anyone can send him anything. And it
Really?
Anyone can send him anything, which is also leads way for, it could be a little bad, giving people that opportunity.
There's some old socks I need to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. But then once people started realizing that, he started culling, narrowing down the packages he was opening on stream. And when I first sent him something, I sent him one of my hoodies. I sent it in a normal poly mailer. He opened it. He said, oh, this is good quality. Threw it to the side, never wore it again, probably donated it. And I thought that was the height of my career when it first happened. Then, after doing research and sending him other stuff, I realized, oh my God, he doesn't really like these brands like the hoodie I first sent him. He's just nice about it. And on top of that, I took note, and this is why I feel like I'm a very good entrepreneur. I take note of these small things hey, he's opening the boxes and the things he gets on stream, but he's no longer opening the poly bags, because when people send him stuff in poly bags, it's always their clothing brand. So okay, I'm going to send him another package, but I'm going to send it in a box, and I'm also going to send a poly bag. A month later, and I sent him a package of hats, never opened the poly bag package I sent, so my inference was right, only opened the box. And he opened it, and I didn't even know he opened it until a day later, when a kid from my high school sent me a video of him wearing my hat while streaming, playing a game. I was like, what the hell? So I saw the stream of him wearing my hat while playing a game, didn't mention the hat at all. Then I looked at his previous stream and I saw he opened it. Bam, he wore it for a week straight, 2 weeks straight, all these sorts of events. So I didn't have direct contact with him at that point. And I talked to other brands that sent him stuff and he wore it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, I'm trying to get in contact with Kai. I want to collab with him. One brand who sent him stuff and he wore his stuff all the time, he's like, give up. He's not going to message you. He doesn't care. He's just going to wear your stuff. Fast forward a day later, he replied to me. I texted him and we even talked about some things, maybe, this and that, but eventually fell out. I haven't talked to Kai probably in 2 years. I do really want to meet him to thank him, but it's like a journey that we're both on. One day our paths will cross, but overall it's pretty cool, even though that he even got to wear it. But it wasn't as crazy as people think. I never paid him. I never talked to him before he wore the hat, just sent it to his P.O. box, and happen by chance.
It's amazing how if you keep putting yourself out, at least in my experience, if you keep putting yourself out there with the right intention, things will eventually happen. Like I feel like, especially being older in the streetwear community in New England and Boston, people don't realize the process and how hard you have to work just to get over the next hurdle and what it really takes. And to have a moment like that you can build off of, or you can use as a way to fall back to and think about, okay, what did I learn from that for my next strategic move? Like those are like the building blocks of, where Arkyve's going to go. Cause that was a huge moment for you.
Yeah. And I want to make something clear to everyone who's watching this, and just reiterate even to myself, those things don't matter anymore. With the scope of streetwear, a celebrity cosign does nothing now. Celebrity cosign, viral videos, like they do nothing for sales, because consumers subconsciously, not consciously know, they subconsciously know that it's a lot easier to get the biggest celebrities wear your products. Mm-hmm. And now it's shifted to where if you want to be successful in streetwear, you actually have to be knowledgeable and can't be gimmicky anymore. Mm-hmm. You need to create a good product, market it well, and know how to run your business well with customer service. And if you don't, all these gimmicks, you're going to die out quickly. And I love it, because these hats were created and started when I was so demotivated and saw all these people becoming successful, literally millionaires off of gimmicks. And now it doesn't work anymore. And now I'm like, thank God, this is the space I wanted to be in, that would have pushed me, when I was sewing clothes and putting all my heart and effort into clothes, and people are just making random designs. But also, it's a good reiteration for me, because it reminds me that I need to get to the cutting board, make sure I'm doing everything correctly, running the business as a real businessman. Mm-hmm.
Before we go to the next question, the last 2 minutes of what he just said, go back and rewind what he just said, if this is in one clip or multiple clips, because there was so much gold, because he's speaking authentically from his heart about what he learned and being passionate about what he's doing, that in itself is what is, drives entrepreneurs. But to be truly successful, you need to have that mindset. Like those are some real lessons in what he was talking about.
You can get a bunch of money and you can sell a bunch of products, making all the t-shirts and hoodies and whatever you want to make. You can only build an empire through doing something with purpose, primarily making clothes. If you saw the people I've met and the places I've traveled to, does not happen through hoodies and t-shirts. Maybe it does, and it's temporarily because you have a little bit of buzz, but what I'm building will last me a lifetime, because not only will it take me to a bunch of places through my hats, it'll transition to other things. Like me, I'm working on managing, consulting a very big upcoming artist, and that is the big picture, because I know you have to be unique through the products you make and how you run your business, and that translates also to being knowledgeable enough to know you have to also transition into other fields and other ways to make money. Someone who just makes t-shirts and hoodies will never know that, because they're not in it for the long run, they're in it for the short term.
You talked a lot about creator-led growth instead of traditional ads. What advice would you give young founders trying to get noticed without a huge budget today? Because the landscape's always changing.
I'd say meet as many people as you can, network, whether that's with normal people, friends, people who aren't in the fashion industry, people who are in the fashion industry like designers or people up and coming, and media pages. Because when you meet all these people, they'll become your followers, they'll become your supporters, they'll give you advice. And how I became friends with a lot of media pages, and also I paid them at one point to post me.
So media pages meaning, so give me an example. So
pages that post up and coming designers, pages that are like, look at this amazing one-on-one piece by this designer, because it's actually pushing boundaries, and they gain likes and followers by posting the new coolest thing.
Is there anyone, like when you're doom scrolling at 2 a.m. that you're like, it's automatically in your feed, like that you love? Because there's so many of them. I mean,
designer,
or information source of an Instagram account.
Trendy Josh is my friend. He's Trendy like a Josh. News. He's from Boston. He works with Crocs. He's a news. He posts about like fashion news. You have the One of One. It's an Instagram page, posts all about one-on-ones. They're a big reason why I got propelled to where I am, because I became friends with them. And when all the Kai stuff happened, what I'm saying is I told everyone, I was like, hey, the one-of-one, can you post about this? My one-of-one that I made for Kai. Hey, this designer, can you show support on this post? Maybe shout me out. My friends, can you repost this and let everyone know that I'm the one who made the hats? I called all those favors. And those people were willing to help me because I built relationships with them. They gave me advice. They shouted me out. And it's all about building a community at the end of the day. So I built a community of people in every space. And you have to be likable. You have to be able to talk to a lot of these people because that is what's going to make it a lot easier for you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's what I'd recommend. Just building a community of followers, fans, and people you support and work with. If you don't have a budget to spend money on.
Right. It's interesting. I always tell people the more you give away of your time, and if you're an active listener, really hearing what people are saying, inevitably that comes back tenfold. You mentioned spending up to 9 to 10 hours a day online building community. What does it actually look like behind the scenes for you? So when you're, thinking about how you're going to be perceived online, how do you manage that? Because it changes in the blink of an eye.
You know what doom scrolling is?
Yeah.
Doom scrolling is market research. Don't get it messed up. I mean, it is doom scrolling.
So wait, is doom scrolling market research if you're like looking at the past losses of the Patriots in the last 4 seasons? That's not market research?
So it's weird.
Shout out, we won the other day.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's weird because, of course, like, doom scrolling will, like, throw away everything that you got going on, like, if you need to be productive. But, like, do you know who NetSpend is?
NetSpend.
Do you know NetSpend?
I don't. I'm going to be watching this to get all these new...
You know NetSpend? I know NetSpend because I'm on my phone all the time. It's like the Gen Z thing, because kids are the ones who influence culture because they have the time. They have the time to spend on consuming media, spending money on all these clothes, while other people, older people have 9-to-5 jobs. So you need to know what these kids like and who they're looking up to kind of push maybe that message on your personal brand, give them clothes on your business page. So like being on your phone a lot is also, it's a double-edged sword because yes, you're wasting time when you could be doing business, but at the same time you're learning about all these things and what's popping. Because at the end of the day, would have never saw someone wearing this hat if I wasn't on my phone. Also just knowing like, yeah, I was on my phone so much, I know all these people. I know people who are on their phone 12 hours a day. I give an example. I was with a friend at ComplexCon, and I had a bag of hats, and I was walking around ComplexCon with it, and he could point out everyone who had even the littlest bit of influence, and he was like, give him a hat right now. I was like, who the hell is this? He's like, trust me. Or also just knowing what designers are doing well. And when you know what designers are doing well, who you like, and you have people you look up to, those are the people that I eventually became friends with. People now I'm even working with because I was their fans. Then they followed me because they like my work, and then we became friends. You learn a lot. Of course, listen, you have most people on their phones and they're not thinking about this. When I scroll on my phone, sometimes, very rarely, I look to just like laugh and look at these stupid jokes and these reels. I scroll with intent, and a lot of time, like my hobbies are all Arkyve business related. And I have like a mind that is very strong and driven towards my goals. I barely drink. I don't smoke. I don't smoke weed or cigarettes or vapes. I rarely drink. I'm not influenced by all these people who like go out to parties and who are just like playing video games. I don't even play video games. I'm on my phone mainly just like learning about like business and clothes and all that because that's what interests me. But again, it's like, yeah, like if you're going to be like me and do all these important things, being on your phone this long is beneficial.
So a few more questions, and then we're going to go to our beloved Hut or Not part of the interview. So right now, hats are, your signature, and I can't tell everyone what I've seen in here, but, there's a lot of things that you're working on. When you look at this potential expansion, or it may already be happening, what are the things that you're most excited about in the next, let's say, 12 months?
I'm excited about crocheting the world. And that means showing everyone the beauty in crochet for the younger generation, because most people don't wear crochet. I'm giving a light and voice to crochet that has never been seen before. And that has started with hats, but it will turn into clothing, it'll turn into accessories, it'll turn into toys, and that will be done through mainly moving into clothing. I'm releasing my first fully comprehensive crochet clothing collection, about 14 pieces, beginning of November. But also I'm doing collaborations with artists, collaborations with other brands, like just expanding the horizon of crochet, showing people something that they couldn't imagine and making it cool. So that's mainly what I'm working on, you know?
So I have a cat, so we can talk about getting measurements for for Banksy to have an outfit. So, you know, I was going through your Instagram and looking at, you know, where you've been, what you've done. I mean, in the last 180 days or last year, Japan, France, ComplexCon, you're going to streetwear events all over the place, and you're in school. So when you look at all these experiences of travel, how have they shaped your understanding of kind of streetwear, the fashion culture, and looking at it from outside the U.S. looking in? Because, you know, there's this term called ethnocentrism. Like, you really don't understand where you're from until you look at it through the eyes of people that are viewing your country from outside of it. And I think especially given the current political climate, you know, if you haven't had a chance to travel or lived somewhere else, you don't understand how other countries are looking at you. So talk a little bit about what you've learned by being able to travel and kind of brought that back as someone from this country.
It has given me true meaning in my life, even beyond outside of Arkyve, because it shows you how vast the world is, and also like how much I love meeting people. And that's like, with or without Arkyve, that will always be one of the core values of my life, is meeting people and learning them or helping them or things of that nature. But also, it helps you look at the U.S. from the inside in, learning about how it's harder to build a name for yourself in other countries because most countries like idolize the US so much. You go to some clubs in like France, all they do is listen to US music, like American rap. But also learning that all these rappers in all the other countries, they're taking from the US because we are the blueprint. And part of that is understanding also too that I am like a token person where I'm the American. And that I can leverage that and make it seem like, oh, people are like, oh, this American brand's coming to us, you guys should support. And I get more support in these countries, or people wanting to be the first in their country to support me.
Right.
And learning about how these influencers are, and just like, I love expanding to new markets. And it helped me realize my hats are universal, and I have the potential to have my hats in every single country and every place. I know in the next couple of years, I will be walking around a fake market in Thailand and see my hats. And that'll be pretty cool. That's the potential of it, and it'll happen 1,000,000%.
And, you know, and it's interesting. This is the first time we met, like an hour and a half ago, and your resolve and integrity about what you're doing. I mean, I don't doubt it at all, because you can feel it. Like, the energy's there, but the authenticity is overflowing. This is a super great interview for a million different reasons. So I'm glad we made the trip out from Boston. So one final question, then we're going to get to hot and not. So you're still balancing school and business. Graduation day, you move that green tassel to the other side. Give me your vision of like 30 days to 2 years out. Like, what are you already planning?
Well, I'm going to grad school. Nah. No.
Wait, what?
No. My vision is I'm going to go right back into making one-on-one pieces, and I'm going to come up with 10 different products that have the same catalytic event that started the hats. I'm going to continue making clothes again. I'm going to have my own studio. I'm going to live in New York City and meet everyone. My network's going to be exponential. And I'm going to travel more. It's just going to be really great. I'm going to open up the floodgates to something that is so much bigger, because I know how everything works. I know that every business and their success is systematic. It's not just luck and creativity. It's very systematic. And I know how the system works. Being in college helps me with that system, but it's very limiting in an extent.
Sure.
So once I graduate, I'm going to really create full extensive lines of my business, be able to devote all my time into it to maximize the money I make from the business. Because I've learned, which is very sad, that I hate doing things for money, because when I was smaller, when I wouldn't do things for money, I'd make more money. But now it's like, okay, I need money to be able to do fun events, product development, yada, yada. That's why I'm actually selling my products to Finish Line and Zoomies.
Mm-hmm.
But those stores are, when you look at it, face value, you're going to devalue your brand. But the only products they're going to get are this cat hat model, not this sock hat model, not the mask. And of the cat hat model, they're only going to get the single color cat hats. Because,
so wait, did this come from Finish Line? Am I wearing a Finish Line?
No. These hats are already on my site, everything. But
not that that's not okay with me.
No.
I mean, I think I look good in white.
Yeah, these hats, you could buy it on Amazon. You could buy this exact hat, not exact hat, because I do a little bit of weaving differently. My product is better quality, but you can buy it on Amazon $10. But the one on Amazon has no culture behind it and just basic. But at the same time, these hats aren't mutually exclusive to Arkyve. Because again, like I said, you get all white, all black cat hats 5 years ago, even on Amazon. But what's mutually exclusive to Arkyve are these hats with the unique, colorful designs, the sock hat, which we basically came up with ourselves, and the cat mask, which we basically came up with ourselves. That was colorful.
You know, I the first time I saw this when I came in, I was like, he must love to cook, because this is a pot holder.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, oh no, it's a hat.
But these hats you will never be able to purchase at any store besides the Arkyve store and curated retailers who, sell like unique products like that. Mm-hmm. But my big picture is to provide my products on a large scale to people while also not devaluing my product, and also getting money to fund the big, amazing things I have planned, because this is just one tiny thing, I'm going to build out a clothing line of more crochet clothing, but also one-on-one high-end line. And those things will never be able to be purchased through,
sure,
a large-scale retailer. Those are going to be just buy through
So
me.
you're even imagining if you have a show, a studio in New York, you have a showroom. So once you have shown that you can make crocheted pants, jackets, sweaters, you have people come in, laser measure, boom, they pick things, you can have that made for them.
Somewhat, like mainly for celebrity stylists, that's what I would do that for. But also, like, I'll have lines and that are very expensive.
I want to put my first order in, because I got Maurice Jones-Drew behind. I'm going to need some shorts for next year.
Yeah, I know. Like, even,
like, these are fire. Look at these.
Fully crochet shorts. This is the big picture, you know what I mean? That we are going to get to once I graduate. And what's going to fund all these amazing things is also selling things on a large scale, like Fear God Essentials. That's essentially what I'm doing. Fear God Essentials. How Carrots put their products in Walmart. How Diamond Supply sold different products than their website and some of the retailers that they sold to Zoomies. Jordan Bentley, owner of Hypeland, sold 1 million t-shirts through Zoomies.
Right.
And he was very young, right. And, you would never expect someone like that doing so successful, but now he even shows it. He has a penthouse in New York, a nice apartment house in Los Angeles, bought a place for his mom as well.
Yeah.
Those Beautiful. Are the things that you should want to do. And you shouldn't let your pride get in the way of being the cool brands. You should understand that life is very quick. Everything can be taken away from you. So you need to maximize your opportunities, while also you can stay with your ideals and wanting to be a cool brand, but also making money, like how I'm doing with these hats.
All right, so there was a lot of gold in that interview, and on behalf of my team at Super Glorious, I'm incredibly grateful that you took the time out of your day, balancing Arkyve and your academic pursuits, just to sit here. You've created a vision of how you want to grow your business, and you're actively doing it, and you're taking into account through growth all the things that need to happen, and you're scaling it thoughtfully, but with incredible passion, which, for someone, where I am in my careers, gets me back to how I started things. One of the reasons I'm still involved with Babson is because you're like reborn every time you're there with students, because you see it again and again. And you can tell the difference between the people that are going to move mountains and the people that are going to be standing at the bottom of the mountain hoping someone pulls them up to the peak. So I really appreciate it. This is super beautiful.
And I think the meaning of life is to chase your dreams. And once you've achieved your dreams, you need to help other people get there. That's what I think.
100%. 100%.
That's what I think.
Crochet hats on dogs, hot or not?
Hot. Like I have 2 dogs.
You do?
I have 2 dogs. And
What
I
are their
put my
names?
hand on Pluto and Daisy. Pluto looks like Pluto from Mickey. He's a hound. And then Daisy's a bull terrier.
How about cats?
Cat hats on cats? Yeah. Hot.
Okay, Banksy, we're getting you on someday.
Okay, AI fashion design, hot or not?
Hot, because I hate designing. I like sewing and creating clothes. So like if it makes the design, like the sewing process easier and, giving people what they want to an extent, great.
So
But
do you have a certain AI tool that you will use if you're, typing in prompts and like, I want to see this way?
ChatGPT, also there was a version of Dolly. Dolly works with ChatGPT now, but there's a version of Dolly that I created my logo with that was really good. I created the alien backdrop logo and then I added the words. But AI is good as a complement. It shouldn't be a replacement because look at me. None of this could have been created through AI.
Right.
AI is a complement of everything I do. I think it should be a complement of the smaller things you do. It shouldn't be the forefront of what you do.
Okay.
Spoon rings making a comeback, hot or not?
Hot. I like it, but I don't know about them making a comeback. I don't know if they are. I think they had their shot time, but they're okay now.
People are, after this blows up and, people are calling you for spoon rings, we
I
do
wanna
a
make them
Super
again.
Super G collab spoon ring.
I want to make them again. I think I'll go back to making them. I'm gonna, when I'm doing well and I have a lot of money, I can just hire someone to make the spoon rings for me, and I'll sell them and maybe give them a cut. Because think about it, there were stores I was buying them I was paying $1 for each one, wholesaling them for $20, and then a store would sell them for $45.
Wow.
I could buy them for $1 and make them for $3 that they're paying for someone and sell them for $45. Think about that. That's great.
So fast fashion dupes culture, hot or not? So for example, you can buy that Hermes bag on Walmart or some of those.
Not, because even if it's super expensive, you should buy what you can afford, and if you can't afford it, don't buy it. That's what I think. That's why dupes aren't good.
Yeah, I'm a huge hater on dupes for a lot of reasons, but I think especially for someone who's traveled and you go to these fashion houses, you go to France and you learn the history. The Dior Museum is a perfect example. Like Christian Dior, the attention to detail and the passion in every aspect of his creations, that's what drew me in even further into clothing, and not necessarily streetwear, because that's where the energy is. That's where the love is. That's where the commitment to really expressing yourself is, not in fast fashion, into detailed, thoughtful, meticulous design.
But I think dupes aren't bad in the sense if it's not for materialism. Maybe you just want something that actually has purpose, but it's made cheaper, and it's from a big company, not a small business. I think that's a gray area where you can, but if it's for materialism, don't buy it unless you can afford it. Also, one day I want to make expensive products. Sometimes I hate seeing all these expensive products, like $600 for a pair of pants. But I know one day I want to put time and effort into a pair of pants that is worth $600. So I have to understand that that's not something you should pay for a dupe of.
Right. I got you.
Gen Z entrepreneurs skipping college, hot or not?
I think there's a difference between skipping college and college not being a research. So I think dropping out of college is not, because some kids do it at Babson and they have no proof of concept. They're not even successful. They just think they need to do that to become successful. So I think the difference between skipping and omitting college, skipping is not. You have to be actually successful to not go to college. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I would add, because I have 2 sons, 25 and 22. The benefit of an education, like an education where you're actually going to class, or you're online and learning new, you're having a broad spectrum of exposure to different topics, is invaluable at any age. You have this time frame in the United States where college is a focus, and if you use it the right way, I got my degree in clinical psychology and then I went into business, but you always will have those resources.
Yeah,
So if
resource.
you step away from it because you're chasing, materialism or financial success because you think you have an idea and you don't have the resources of the broader experiences of an education, it's hard to come back at a certain point because you kind of age out, but you also feel like you're not, you can't recommit again. I mean, one of the things at Babson for the MBA is a majority of the students are younger who go back to get their MBA now because businesses aren't sending their VPs or their higher ups back to get an MBA to stay in the company. People are realizing a couple of years out and they've experienced life outside of college that they need the additional education.
AI generated influencer models, hot or not?
Oh man.
That's like,
I never know.
I think not, because it's like there's some value in also supporting photographers, even though it is sticky, because I wish it would be that easy for me. I think AI product pictures are hot, but not models wearing your products.
Yeah, I mean, I just realized after sending 3 dozen roses to this woman that she was not real. So that was super embarrassing. My wife was not happy.
That's funny.
Streetwear brands going high fashion, hot or not?
I think it's hot. You can do whatever you want. Just don't go high fashion if you don't deserve to be high fashion. Your products aren't really there.
I totally agree. I think it's a completely different business model. It's not a natural progression that once you've proven your concept in, when I say lower end, I'm just saying, you start with a certain 2 or 3 products that you're making and perfecting, and then you decide to push to higher fashion. There's got to be a reason why that progression is natural, but it also has to be, if that's your end goal from the start, okay, then I get it. You're building your brand. You're hoping that you can grow enough and, an outside investor or a super brand like, LVMH finds you and you can grow into high fashion. But that process itself shouldn't be the goal of what you're trying to do. If that's your vision and, an end point you want to get to, but to get there from that point A to point B takes a lot of progression because, you look at, if someone like me who remembers when Pharrell was skateboard P and was down in Virginia and actually, used to skateboard all the time, and then you'd see the early designs to this point today, that's 20 something years, and he'd probably be the first person to tell you that he didn't have the vision of stepping to where he is now. He just kept doing, like you said, networking, meeting people, kept trying to improve his craft. And over time, you get noticed, your network builds, you bring people in. And if that's what you'd like to do and the opportunity presents itself and you have developed the skill sets, you step through that door. But to start that way, I think you're going to miss all the great opportunities that are going to come up by just being creative.
2 more. Sustainable packaging and slow ship models, hot or not?
Hot if it's slow ship with real purpose. It's sustainable with real purpose, yeah.
I agree, 100%.
All right. The last question. Pop-up shops versus permanent retail. Which one's hot?
That's hard.
Do you feel like pop-up shops have been kind of played out, or people are so used to them that the energy around developing a pop-up shop that really kills it is so much harder?
It's down now because a lot more people are doing it and they figured it out, because everything that's great, there's a barrier behind it where people don't understand how it's done. That's partly with my crochet hats. There's a big barrier behind people not knowing how it's truly made. And that's why my hats are also so great. People are going to figure it out and make it less of what it is, but permanent retail, I think permanent retail, because that's the main goal, and that's pretty cool if you can do that. And then you can have you can really put time into it. Pop-up shops are also very rushed a lot of the time.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what you're saying, and I think having been to a lot of pop-up shops, the ones you see that hit on all different aspects, that takes months of planning and really thinking through the customer journey inside the experience, which is quote unquote temporary. And in many ways, that's those pop-up shops that are done really well are just like a long-term retail concept because they're created to know that they're short period, they're a small window, but it has to have all the energy and all the strategic decision making of a full-scale business.
But when I think of pop-up shops versus permanent retail, I think of like a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day pop-up shop. I'm thinking of like streetwear, like me. But then you have pop-up shops that are like 1 month, and that's like truly just like permanent retail for 1 month. That's how I look at it.
So this is Jonathan Epstein.
This is Will Biondo from Arkyve.
And this is another edition of Partners and Plugs. Peace.